Welcome to the first installment of Behind the Scenes. It's a process video, and here what you're gonna see is the process, the very literal process. So what I have is a lot of unedited clips of the stop motion recordings of my experience in Procreate as I create these things. You can see that I'm a novice. This is like inviting you into my closet a little bit, kind of peeping all my secrets. And here we have some scenes from the upcoming episode of Order of Lost Things, which is just episode 2. And in this episode there's a clown, and I'm really excited about this episode because I love clowns. And I love clowns, especially because I used to be afraid of them, but only certain ones. What happened was at some point in my childhood and into my mid-20s at least, I thought I was terrified of clowns, which was strange because I loved them as a little kid. And then when I kind of took the time to explore that fear, what I realized was that I was afraid of like the 1950s, 1960s Barnum and Bailey circus clown. I don't trust those clowns. I don't feel comfortable with those clowns. They've got those oversized shoes and the giant squeaky noses, and they are always wearing like a daisy in the front pocket of the jacket, and the daisy is squirts ink at you, and I don't trust them. I mean, you can fit like 27 of those clowns into one car. What is there to trust about that? And I realized that clown has a story too, and it was based on the hobo character and Charlie Chaplin, and everything comes from somewhere precious usually, but I cannot hang out with those clowns. I have a great love, however, for like Perrault, the Italian sad clown, and Harlequin, the mischief clown, and I have a great reverence for the fact that clowns used to be holy creatures in society. Clowns were spiritual guides and holy fools, and they were prophets, and they were a very big part of guiding us. And there's that saying now, as we look at the evolution of the clown, from ritual participants and ritual leaders in ancient history into the development of the circus clown, which was in the 19th century, we see this evolution, and I feel as though we're looking in a mirror. The evolution of the clown is a reflection of our own evolution as people. And there's that quote about humor telling the truth. And it used to be that in the court, the only person allowed to tell the truth about the monarchs was the jester, the clown, the holy fool. You could not speak ill unless you were the clown. The clown was so revered that the clown could tell the truth. And even now, I feel like there are undercurrents of the clown as symbols of truth bringers. And so I'm really, really excited to be telling the story of the clown. And so these small stories, I feel are another step in the journey that I'm taking to look at storytelling as a multimedia experience, at least for myself. I'm used to writing stories, I'm used to telling stories, I'm used to performing stories, but I have not told them visually in this way ever. And so here, in Order of Lost Things, what we're doing is telling series of stories that explore the bigger picture of loss, the bigger picture of release, and not in a toxic positivity kind of way, but and I do feel like positivity culture is overdone. I feel like positivity culture forces us to sweep things under the rug. I feel like responses such as, well, that's over now, time to look forward and move on, really serve to make us look away from the whole part of the truth, the whole experience. I think that we need to look at loss and grieving as a part of a whole. I think that the way that a lot of people want to just love and light everything is harmful. And I think that exploring the darkness, and in the case of these stories, eventually exploring the actual very bottom of the sea is part of how we end up okay in the end. You can't just bury things without looking at them piece by piece and memorizing their shapes first. So, in Order of Lost Things, it's a story that takes place in a multiverse that I created initially and then kept building with co-authors and co-creators. And in this place, which is called Elsewhere, there's a floating city, which is introduced in this episode. And the floating city hovers above a lost continent, and that's the setting for a lot of these stories. There are 5 moons, and the moon is addressed in chapter 1 as a living character in these stories. And it's funny because we switch between referring to the moons as multiples and referring to the moon as one moon, and I think that I'm going to have to find a way to reconcile that at some point, but I think those are almost interchangeable. And so Order of Lost Things is built by 2 characters that have not been introduced yet, and the storyteller who collaborates with me on Order of Lost Things is named Aurora Curtis. She's my cousin, actually, and the 2 of us built Order of Lost Things when we started to look at our own burning ships and what we had lost this year and what we had lost our whole lives and what hurt us and where things were buried. And sometimes a ship has to burn. Sometimes the ship is supposed to burn, and sometimes you're not ready for the ship to burn. And so in upcoming stories, we're going to see Our Lady of Shipwrecks, who's responsible for burning the ships, and Our Lady of Disquiet, who keeps track of all the things that sunk to the bottom of the sea and knows exactly where they are. And these patron saints of lost things serve to deliver farewells to what's lost. And you can come to them and you can give them a message to carry. And that's kind of an inside look on what is upcoming in these characters and this story development. I think that right now, one of the most important things we can do as storytellers is really look at loss and not just explore it, but name it, give it a shape. We need to talk about our grief in ways that are realistic. And I know that I only know how to do that through metaphor. And so here we are at the very, very beginning of Order of Lost Things, which is a continuation of the Floating City stories, which came before, and all of it is going to be tied together here in this new and exciting format. So thank you for being on this journey with me. I'm still learning. I only learned to animate 3 weeks ago. And I think that as this process continues, what I'm going to do is learn to tell the story, because I'm not quite sure how yet.